Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Gene Guarino. Thanks for being on the show, Gene.
Good to be here.
Gene has discovered what he calls the best investment opportunity available today, residential assisted living. I'm excited about this show because I haven't had anyone on that talks about residential assisted living yet. And but he's personally trained hundreds of entrepreneurs, investors in this specialized niche and opportunity. So, Gene, start us off with a little bit about how you got into real estate, and then obviously we're going to move into what residential assisted living is and how we can learn more about it.
You got it. And don't feel bad, Whitney. Nobody really knows about assisted living, but everybody's going to get involved one way or the other.
That's fun.
That's part of it. We'll discuss that. But you asked a big question. How did I get started in real estate? So I was 18 years old. We had been a tenant. We had a music school, recording studio, small record label. We had been renting a building for 2 years. So I've been an entrepreneur for a long, long time. And the landlord wasn't good. And we said, we're either shutting this down or we got to get a new place. So we looked out the front door, up the street, 2 doors away was a for sale sign. And we went up, grabbed the for sale sign, brought it home, made a call. One thing led to another. We ended up buying that property, no money down. We ran our business out of it. Then we did a property where we did a fix and flip and did that. Then we did buy and hold. Then we did our first commercial. So I've been doing real estate now for a long time. I'm an old guy with a white beard.
So tell us, that's at 18. I mean, that's impressive. I don't meet too many people that are, getting into real estate at that age. That's fantastic. I wish I had. But so lead us from there a little bit to, how you got to the residential assisted living specifically.
So in real estate, most people start with a need. And my need was we had a need to have a place for the business. And then it was the money. So we bought a home and flipped it. And then when we did the buy and hold, it was the cash flow. But flash forward 30 years, I got to the point where it's like, I need significant cash flow. $100 a month or a unit's just not cutting it. That's a round of golf, not a lifestyle. So I had a need for more money, significant residual income. So with that in mind, I was out looking for something, and I remember distinctly, it was about 20 years ago. I went to an event, there was hundreds of people there, and a guy in the front, and he was talking about all kinds of things, but he spent about 10 minutes talking about senior housing and the baby boomers. And he said something to the effect of, this is the place to be because all the baby boomers are getting older, and you've got to get involved in this. So I ran up to him, and I said, tell me more. He said, well, I can't. I don't actually do it. I'm just telling you should do it. So I laughed and I said, well, do you know anybody who is doing this senior housing that you're talking about? So he referred me to somebody, and they weren't really willing to share with me what it is and how it works. So time went on, and about 10 years later, it got to the point where my mom started to need help. And Whitney, that's when things get personal. That's when it gets real. It's not just the money, it's mom. So when she needed help and we had to start to look for, what do we do? Where do we bring her? What does it cost? That's when the revelation came. This is a massive opportunity. We couldn't find what we were looking for, but we had a big need. People were paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month to have somebody take care of their mother or father, and it's a real estate play and a business play. So at that point, and the real estate market had now been crumbling and crashing, and it was about 6 years ago. So at that point, I said, this is it. I'm getting in. So I bought an existing home that was a home and a business, the real estate and the business combined. I learned my lessons and what to do and what not to do on somebody else's business. And that can be a struggle in itself, by the way. I don't recommend doing that. It's kind of like saying, here's the keys to the jet engine and go ahead and figure out how to fly it, right? You may survive.
So this property was already an assisted living property, and you didn't really have much education about it at the time, but you thought, I'm going to go ahead and buy this and hop in. But you been doing that.
Exactly. I mean, it was the way that I knew I could get in. If I take over somebody else's, I'll figure out what's working, what's not, how I would do it differently. So let's get down to the core of it. It's a home, a residential home. So it's not a big box facility. It's not a converted school or a converted hotel or a 200-300 bed Brookdale facility. It's a single family home in a regular neighborhood. What we do is we look for nice areas. When I say nice areas, it's all about the demographics, who lives there. the clients who are living in the home, the residents, as we call them, they may be 80 or 90 years old, but it's their kids who are 50, 60 who are making the decisions about where they live and what does it cost and so on. So you want to be as close to that clientele as possible, right in the same neighborhood is what we shoot for. So we're looking for the right house, but it's more importantly the right location, because we can scrape away the house, rebuild, reconstruct, do whatever. And then the house, we can talk about what works out there. But I know your listeners are a lot about the funding and raising of capital, so we do want to make sure to talk about that part as well. But what questions do you have? Because I know your mind is tickling a little bit right now.
No, that's good. I obviously want to get into a little bit about what types of properties and how, how people in the syndication business obviously can, use this as another avenue, maybe some skills that we have and how we can say, okay, we can look into this other asset class that we hadn't even thought about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into syndication because they need capital. They figure, let me learn how to raise that capital. And it's really for themselves and their own project, at least at the beginning. And then once you have the skill of being able to raise money and you've got some network and you've got some people that are willing to say, hey, I like Whitney, and if he says this is good, then I'm going to check it out and see and decide for myself. So once you're a syndicator and you've got that skill, now your next job is to find projects that are worthy raising capital for. And you've got to be passionate about it. You've got to believe it. If you don't believe it and you don't think it's a good deal, it's not going to be easy for you to raise capital. So what I do is I find a lot of people who are doing syndication, raising capital, are looking for projects. They're looking for a good opportunity, a good return, something they feel good about, and they can turn their clients onto. So the assisted living, a couple of things that are really strong about it is, number one, it's in a good solid price range. You're not raising $50,000, you might be raising $500,000 or $1 million, or we've had students raising $10 million. So it's a good enough chunk that it's worth putting your effort in. The real estate itself is a good underpinning of value and gives good security for that loan or that investment. And then there's the business component on top. So you can either do a real estate only loan, or you can do the real estate and the business. You can actually do raising the capital to have a fund. So you've just raised a fund that you're going to lend it out on these types of properties.
Nice. So tell us what type of projects or, properties should we be looking for? Is this, specific sizes, specific, what should we be looking for, and how do we learn how to do this?
So if you're looking for the property itself, the first thing I'm going to always say is it's the location first. So the demographics of that location, and let me give you some generals. I'm looking for where there's more people rather than less. So I have a student who's in Conrad, Iowa, which is the middle of nowhere. It's a cornfield, 1,000 people, not my target market. If I'm in an area where there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people within 20 minutes of me, a lot of people there, some of them are going to need what we have. So the demographics. The next key is, who are they income-wise? So I don't want the lower income, really don't want even the middle or average. What I want is above average. So not Beverly Hills, cream of the crop top at the top, but if the average income, household income in that area is $60,000 for the state, I'm looking for a place that's got 80 or 100 or 150,000. That's going to be more of an upscale neighborhood, not the top, but just upper income. And then from there, what I'm looking for is a bigger house. Bigger is better in general. And I'm looking for more bathrooms than bedrooms. So what I mean by that is I might do a search. I may go into an area, like I was in Tampa, Florida, and I did a search, and it's like, show me homes that are 3,000 square feet with 3 bathrooms or more. So why 3,000 and 3 bathrooms? It's easier to change space from space into a bedroom than it is to add a bathroom. So 3 bathrooms, a lot of those homes have 4 and 5 bathrooms. So that's 1. 2, a rule of thumb would be 300 square feet of living space per resident is a really good rule of thumb to be a nice, comfortable home for senior housing. Now, the state will allow you to do it in half that space. You can do it in a 1,500 square foot house and have 10 people. That's not what I teach people how to do. I want a comfortable home. My homes are 4,000, 5,000, even 6,000 square feet. So really nice homes in nice areas, very comfortable. And what that plays into is we can charge anything we want, but the nicer the home, the nicer the area, the more we charge.
Nice. So I'm sure there's other requirements that we probably need to know about assisted living. So, tell us, if we're coming from, say, multifamily syndication, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to think about residential assisted living. What are some other things that I need to know that I wouldn't normally think about, or I wouldn't know to think about when moving into that asset class?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, Whitney, is the idea of the operator is key to this whole equation. So when I say the operator, somebody's going to operate the business. When we say assisted living, it is a real estate play, and that's the sticks and the bricks and the dirt and the mud. That's what it is. But the business side is where the real money is, the real cash flow. So it'd be kind of like saying if I was to buy Subway sandwich shops, what's important there? Certainly location is important, but most of those are in leased locations anyway. So what you're looking for is an experienced operator or somebody who's done it before. So that operator is the one who's going to actually run the day-to-day operations of the business. Now, I can teach somebody how to be the operator and make that money, and we have a training that does exactly that. But if you're going to be just the syndicator, just the capital raising partner, your goal is going to be to find that operational partner with them. They've got the project. They're going to run the day-to-day. Your job is to raise the capital for what they're doing.
I would imagine this operator is someone, I mean, is that going to be different types of teams than, say, our normal property management company?
Absolutely, because with a property management company, it's a building, and let's say there's 100 units, and that person's job is to fill them and then to maintain them. So collect rent, repairs, and so on. In the assisted living, it's the clientele. Somebody moves in, and instead of paying $1,000 a month, they're paying $5,000 a month. The extra money is not for the housing, it's for the care that they receive. So now where an apartment building really doesn't have employees other than some maintenance and some repair and some leasing agents and so on. In assisted living, it's a business. So you have a manager, caregivers, we have residents that move in, family members you have to deal with. So there's a lot of moving parts, as they say. And I think one of the easiest ways to think of it is when you think about commercial property, most people walk into a store, especially this time of year, we're in the holiday, but you walk into a store and somebody just sees the store and assumes that that store owner owns the building. Well, probably not the case. Somebody owns the dirt. They lease it to the company that owns the building, who leases it to the company that operates the business. And if it's a hotel, then they lease the restaurant to somebody else and the bar to somebody else. So they're all making money, but they're all playing their part. So with the assisted living, somebody owns the real estate and somebody's going to operate that business. So those two separate things, it could be the same person or entity. I do it in two separate entities. I'm the same person, but one entity owns the real estate, another entity operates the business. So I need the right real estate, but I'm the operator, so I am the right operator. And that combination of the two, the real money, just talking about the real estate play, I always tell people you can charge anything you want for rent, but imagine getting twice the market rent with a long-term lease, like a 5-year lease. That's typically what people do when they're landlords or property owners to operators who are owning these properties, who are operating these businesses. They'll own the real estate and they'll lease it to the operator. Why would somebody be willing to pay twice the market rent? Because they're making a boatload of money. When it's all said and done, they're making $10,000 a month. So they didn't have to come up with a down payment to fix up costs. Somebody else did. And they're happy because they have a long-term tenant for 5 years plus. And the tenant's happy because they're making 10 grand a month on the business.
Are you tired of answering emails from investors about when they'll receive their K-1s? Let the real estate CPA handle the accounting and taxes on your next syndication, and they'll file your tax returns by March 15th so you can get your K-1s to your investors by the individual filing deadline on April 15th. Not only will this reduce headaches, but it will help you retain investors over the long term by improving investor experience. The Real Estate CPA is now offering a special virtual workshop to the listeners of the Real Estate Syndication Show on how to answer tax-related questions from your investors. Learn more today by visiting therealestatecpa.com/syndication. Does this type of property is it normally a certain size? Is it normally a single family, with numerous, obviously, bathrooms, or is it, could you find a 10 to 15 unit property and do this, or even larger?
Yeah, our niche, our focus is single family residential property. So let's just say it did have a 4 unit. So it's a quad. There's 4 kitchens, 4 bathrooms, 8 bedrooms, 4 garages. We only need 1 kitchen in a group home. We only need, we don't need all of that extra stuff. So the highest and best use for that would be a 4-plex and so on. Take a big house. A big house, it might be 4,000 square feet, where there may be currently 4 bedrooms in it, but there's a lot of space that could be converted into additional bedrooms. You can have 2 seniors in a bedroom, so you need at least 5 to have 10 residents, and I'm just using easy math. But you could have 6 or 8 bedrooms or 10 bedrooms, just divide up the space a little bit differently. So the house itself is going to be bigger than the average house, maybe bigger than the average house in that neighborhood. More bathrooms is better. Legally, you only need 2 bathrooms for that 8 or 12 people in a home. So typically in the States, they say 1 bathroom per 8 residents in the assisted living. So it might be 2 bathrooms for a home, but my homes have 6 and 7 and 8 bathrooms because you can charge more for private bathrooms. And it could be a half bath, doesn't need to be a full bath. In addition to that, you're going to add things to it like grab bars near the toilets and showers, smoke for sure, maybe even fire suppression, sprinklers. It may be required. I do it anyway just because I want the seniors to be safe. We don't need garages, so we can convert that space. The seniors don't drive cars. I could go on and on. I do a whole 3-day training on this, and these are great questions, and I know that there's a lot of questions that people have. So at the end, if you want, I'll give people access to a free training that they can access.
Sure. That would be great. That'd be great. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So, getting into this business, tell us about the last property maybe that you've worked on.
Got it. Well, I own and operate 3 of these homes in Arizona. They generate a lot of cash flow, so you don't need to own a whole lot of them. My goal is not to have 1,000. I teach others how to do it, though, and we teach the concept of a 3-pack, so 3 homes within a half hour. So the last home that I did, we selected the home based on the demographics. First thing that I said, we want to make sure that we know the rules of the game. That's the way I put it. How many can I have? What does the application look like? How do I get a license? All the things that I need to do. We did the renovations. The home itself was $800,795. It was already a 5,100 square foot house with 5 beds and 6 bathrooms, I think. So we converted a 4-car garage into bedrooms. We put a little addition on, about 300 square feet, not a huge one. But now it's a 6,400 square foot house with 11 bathrooms and 10 bedrooms. 11 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms. It's huge. And that's what we did. So we bought the house, we renovated the house, we put about $200,000 into the renovation. And now that home itself generates $50,000 plus a month in gross revenue, and it nets about $15,000 a month in net revenue.
Wow. I was taking notes. I was trying to get some of that down about that property. So you got about $1 million and a little over $1 million or 1.1 in that property now.
Right.
I also noticed that it started out with 5 beds and 6 baths, but now it has 11 beds and 12 baths.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, we converted some space because we can charge more for private rooms than shared rooms.
Wow. So now, what would be your hold strategy for this property? Is it just like buy and hold, you'll keep it now forever? Or do you have a strategy like, okay, 5 to 10 years, we're going to move this property, go to another one?
So the cool thing is that you really now have 2 assets. You have the real estate, which is the property, which is worth what it's worth based on a comparable market analysis. And you also have a business that's generating that $15,000 a month in income. And that has value. Each one of them can be sold separately. So I could sell the business and lease the real estate to the new owner, the operator. I could sell the real estate and lease it from them and just be the owner of the operator of the business. I can keep them both. Bigger picture, some of us are putting together more of these homes. The bigger the group of assets you have, the more valuable it becomes to the big hedge funds and so on. There's a lot of money that wants to get in this game, and they don't want to write a little check for a few million. They want to write big checks for 100 million. So imagine having 100 of these properties where you and I might be willing to put 1.1 into, but they're willing to pay $2 million for it because it's a big enough scaled enough so they can come in and put down 200 million and buy it all.
Tell me how to speak to investors about this type of property. What are some common questions that they're going to have about this that I wouldn't know yet, because I haven't done this type of property? What do we need to be prepared for when raising capital for this type of deal?
Well, one of the things I always encourage people to do, no matter how you decide you're going to get involved, and we jokingly said this at the beginning, Whitney, you're all going to get involved one way or the other. You're either going to own the real estate, operate the business, or you or a family member is going to be living in a property, writing a check to somebody else who does. So one of the things is to learn as much as you can about the industry. And I mean specifically the facts, the figures, what is here, what is coming. when we talk about the baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer kind of at the back end. I'm 57, born in 61, but baby boomers that were born in 46, they're 72 years old. They're 10 years away from assisted living on average. Some are in assisted living, but not that many. The average person in assisted living is 82. So when you think this is what you need to know to explain to that person raising the capital, this business is good now, and it's going to get better and better and better. It's a silver tsunami of seniors that is coming that you simply cannot stop. You look at any chart and you see that population spike in 1946, and they're aging. And it is what's been driving our economy around the world for 70 years. So the real estate itself, one of the concerns that people have is, well, if you do all this additional work to the real estate, doesn't that detract from the value? Or won't it make it less valuable to resell it to a homeowner? All right, valid question, but you're kind of missing the point. It's kind of like you've just converted this thing into this, beautiful roaring machine, and now we want to convert it back to a Toyota. It just doesn't make sense, yet that's what some people think, because the home itself is a home. Once you, let's say, convert the garage into living space and add extra bathrooms, put in sprinklers and fire suppression, why would you ever just rent it to a family again? I mean, it's going to be a group home of some kind, whether it be for the elderly or sober homes or addiction home, or it's going to be a group home of some kind forever, just because it's who needs 10 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms, right? It's also its highest and best use at that point because now it's generating massive income. So the real estate play, it's got to be well located, but you need to know the industry, you need to know what's here, what's coming, the facts, the figures, and that's a big part of what people get out of the training that we do.
So what are some of the common problems that students have when getting into this type of business?
I think in general, in any business, one of the things that people underestimate is the capitalization, the startup capital that's needed to operate a business when you're getting it up and running. So that undercapitalization is one of the bigger issues that some people have when it comes to starting a business of any kind. That's one. Two, they think it's all about the real estate. And we're talking about real estate, a lot of it, and I talk to real estate investors all the time, but the real estate is, I'm going to use the term the easy part, because I can fix it, scrape it away, rebuild it, build it from scratch. It's the location. And if somebody falls into the trap of, I've got the perfect home, it's free, and they start to do this and it's the wrong location, it's a waste of time. It's kind of like having a motorboat in the middle of the desert and there's no lake around. So it needs to be in the right location. That's the biggest challenge that people have. The second one, if you were to ask me what is the biggest challenge, I'd say people, and people of every kind. And that's not the raising capital. It's the caregivers, the manager, it's the residents, the family, it's people. Real estate's fun, bricks and sticks, paint it, fix it. It's humans that get in the way.
Give us a couple more tips about the location. Like if I'm driving downtown, I'm seeing for sale signs, what's something else that should be sticking out to us that say, okay, I think I could make that into an assisted living home right there.
So I want everybody who's listening, I want you to be thinking and even write it down when this comes to your mind. What's the nicest neighborhood in town? In your town, the nicest area. And you write that down. We start there. That's kind of the premise. Now, when we say the nicest neighborhood, some people are thinking, it's all perspective, right? So if the average home is $300,000, they're looking at $800,000 homes and saying, that's the nicest area. And I'm saying, I'm sure there's a $10 million home in the area. You just don't know about it. But let's say the 800,000, because that's really the range. It's not middle, it's not low, and it's not the 10 million. It's that nicer home in a nicer area. So let's assume for a minute that represents a neighborhood that has upper income people, not top at the top, not in the bottom. Now, the next thing is, what are the rules inside that area? So let's just say you're in Virginia. So I don't know Virginia very well, but let's just say somebody's in Texas. And Texas is a massive state with a handful of major cities. But if you're in Dallas, they have rules. In El Paso, they have a different set of rules. So what are the rules of the game in your location? Meaning, what do they call this assisted living in a residential setting? What they call it is important to know. How many people can I have? What's the process of doing it? See, all of that's important because once you chose the location, now I find out the rules of the game, then I can go look for the house. So that's kind of like the third step down the line. If you look for the house first and say, now let me go back and do all the homework, maybe it's a good deal, maybe it's not, but maybe it's the wrong location and you're wasting time.
Gene, what's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
That's a neat question. And I'm going to answer it a couple of different ways. One is just being committed. I make decisions quickly and I move forward. If something works, great. And if it doesn't, hey, I tried it and I can always turn to the left or the right. But if you don't make a decision and don't move forward, you are sitting still and going backwards.
How did you learn to do that?
How'd you learn to do that? That's a good question.
Is that something you had to work on? I've had to work on that myself and be intentional about making quick decisions.
That's really interesting. I am not sure. I'm going to attribute that to music, because when you play music and you're a musician and you jam or improvise, you got to just make quick decisions. Do I hit the cymbal here? Do I hit the hi-hat here? So it must be that, because that's kind of where I started life.
Nice. And what would you say is the hardest part of this business? I mean, what's just one thing that people just say, I can't do this?
I think the hardest thing is that there are roadblocks, and it's really more speed bumps, but people treat them as roadblocks. And that's the hardest thing is seeing things as opportunities, not game stoppers. There's barriers to entry into this, and I like that. I like it that there's not everybody can get in, because everybody would. It's so lucrative. I like the fact that there's rules to the game, so I can learn the rules and figure out, how do I get around that rule? Yeah. How do I still make it work? But the speed bumps there, the biggest challenge is letting that become a roadblock and say, well, I can't do this because it's too hard, or you're hanging around with negative people who are telling you can't. Get rid of those people.
What's the most important thing you can tell somebody that's looking to get into this business?
Into the assisted living business, residential assisted living, not to be self-serving, but you better learn what you're doing in advance, because you will pay for it in the rear, not even arrears.
Gene, you've been a great guest, and it's not my specialty. What else does the listener need to know about this business if they're thinking, okay, I can do syndication business, and I can also raise capital for some assisted living on the side, or do that in addition to what would you tell them?
And I'm going to go from two angles. One, if you're doing the raising of capital where you're not going to be the operator, your first goal is to find the operator. Find somebody that you like, you trust, that is an operator. If they've got experience, much better. But the point is an operator, because they're the ones who are going to do all that part. Your job is to raise the capital. So that's one. On the other hand, if you're going to do this yourself, there's really two sides to this. There is real estate and there's business. You need to understand those are very separate. The real estate is pretty cut and dried, simple. The business, that's where it takes a lot of skill, and you need the training. You need to know what to do, because that's where you make the big money or you have the big failure. There's so many more things I can give you, but those are two.
Well, our time is up, unfortunately, but Gene, I'd like you to tell the listeners how they can learn more about you and your academy and your business.
Thanks. And I'm going to give you all a website that you can go to and get a free training. So get ready for that. And when I say a free training, I have the privilege of traveling all over the country. I was in 50 cities this year already in 5 countries. And as I travel around, sometimes I do a 5-hour training. So I boil down the essence of the 5 hours to an hour and 20 minutes. And that's what I'm giving to all of you. It's 7 sections. I broke it down even easier, because that's the way I am. So if you go to the website, RAL101.com. RAL101.com. That's residential assisted living, but just RAL101.com. You can sign up for that free training. And if you have more questions, there'll be links there to get you to our website, RALacademy.com.
Great. Thank you again, Gene. I know the listeners have learned a lot today. I know I have. And, I hope you all will connect with Gene and learn about his academy and learn more about assisted living, and kind of have that under your wing as something else maybe you can do and add to your portfolio. So I hope you'll also go to the Facebook group and join, so we can all learn from experts like Gene and grow our business together, and go to lifebridgecapital.com and connect with me, so I can help you any way I can, and schedule a call. And we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.